Ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are. We are live once again. How's everybody doing today? This is your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman, and we're coming to you live and in color from our secret undisclosed location on Newport Harbor in Newport Beach, California. And it is another spectacular day. Today's obviously Thursday, July 31st. We're getting ready to say adios to July. And guys, I was thinking about this the other day. If you were to have, or somebody was to try to have a feature, whatever it is, whether it's an Instagram post or just keeping track, if you had a thing titled Outrage of the Day, you couldn't do it because you would have to pick which outrage to report on. And, that's the entire Trump strategy. That's how he keeps everybody looking the other way while he just backs those trucks up and fills them with treasury dollars that, Americans kind of paid. And just, I got to tell you, what brought this to mind. And of course, we'll get into the regular order of things in a minute. But I had noticed somewhere that they had ordered 250 new Escalades. Now I don't, I don't, drive those kind of things, but I know they're fairly expensive. I know they're fairly big, and I also know that we're kind of like in a hole spending money. We're burning through money in Iran, and oh, how about another 250 Escalades? And Barry Goldwater was the Republican nominee. He was from Arizona, and I think this was in '64. And he's like, a billion here and a billion there. Before you know it, you're talking money. And we are absolutely convinced that Trump believes, and that his staff has reinforced, that he can do whatever he wants with Treasury tax money because he's the president. He can do what he wants. And look at this. And the sad thing is, it was all so predictable. All you had to do is ask yourself, like I had to ask my buddies. Well, actually, I only have one buddy. He's like 85-ish, and I frankly think he's just been completely brainwashed at this point. Uh, Hang on. But yeah, so and then there's the doesn't he want to redo Dulles? Was that 2 billion or 20 billion? After a while, he's just insane. And the worst, I'm going to tell you the absolute most disgusting thing about Trump is the corruption and the blind eye. And it's not even a blind eye. Have they blessed it? The Republican Party has outright blessed all this. I don't hear anybody protesting about, you know, I think the 2 billion was a little much. The Republicans are like, let me in, I want some. Uh, So yeah, it's gonna take an adult to come in the room and try to somehow sweep up the complete messes that Trump has left in every corner of the world, and it fits his business profile to a T. I said my 85-year-old guy kept telling me what a superior business person Trump was, and that's why he's going to vote for him and not Kamala. And of course, I'm like, oh, let me pull out my 4-page sheet of Trump financial bungles, and maybe we can go through this together, and maybe you can tell me where like the accumulated financial acumen came from. And I shouldn't have rubbed it in quite that hard. The guy's is 85. Uh, but it's beyond time to call the SOB what he is. He's just a lying SOB. Uh, so I can give you tons of examples, but my favorite recent one, how about that? Like the outrage of the day. But my favorite recent Trump, you can't trust him kind of thing, is he and what's his name, Mohammed bin Salman, the ruler of Saudi Arabia, the wealthiest guy and all this stuff. Actually, he's not as wealthy as Elon Musk, but he does okay. So anyway, and they kind of talk to each other and call each other names and all that, and I think Mohammed bin Salman, they call him MBS, but I call him Mo BS because that's kind of what he is Mo BS. So anyway, Trump says, "Geez, oh Mo, I'll make you a good deal on a nuclear reactor. How about that? You'd like a nuclear reactor, wouldn't you, Mo?" And Mo goes, "Sure, I'd like a nuclear reactor. And how much is it?" "Oh, yeah, we'll figure it out later, but that's good enough for us." And they shake hands on it, and, sign a little cocktail napkin. And so Mo's like, "Man, we really schemed that guy. We got the nuclear reactor for nothing." And yes, you did. And the worst part about it is, it's just going to. Oh, so anyway, I'm sorry. So the next day, Trump says, "Oh, oops." He probably said, "Oops. I forgot to mention to my buddy Mo that just there's just one kind of deal we need to talk about before I give you this old nuclear reactor that I know my old buddy Mo BS would really like to have." And you know what it is? They have to recognize the state of Israel. So, I mean, just outright do it. And this is like central to these guys' existence. And so, of course, Mo says, that wasn't in the original deal. So, where are we? God only knows. You got a lunatic that's a pathological liar in the White House. And I mean, and another thing about this Camp David meeting we took the cabinet to earlier today. Are the leaks true? Is he just flipping out completely? And I think we ought to call flipping out what it is. I think it's breaking down, and I think the guy's just, you know, he's just breaking down. Things are turning against him in a way he's never experienced. I mean, how many people really tell Trump no? And if Cornyn and Tillis hold their positions look against the confirmation of Todd Blanche for Attorney General, and guys, who in the world thinks this guy should be the Attorney General? He constructed a deal to give Trump $10 billion from the IRS and immunity for life to his kids and his, I mean, is that the guy you want representing the United States? Because I don't think his position as the president is the United States. And we're like, pal, you are warped. You are warped worse than the worst MAGA guy. But just out of curiosity, does any how many? Oh, you know what, guys? We forgot to double check phone lines, and now they'll be open shortly. There they are. I'm sorry, guys. We just got the phone biz going, and we are live at 949-629-3820. So if you got any questions or comments about this, feel free to call in. Uh, but yeah, can you believe this? Of course, Mo was like, we'll talk later, but it's complete government by whim. And if anybody can please, God, explain to me that's what the founders wanted. I mean, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. We fired the shot heard around the world. This was, I mean, we know history. And trust me, this is not a proper exercise of authority or power. But have you guys called them down? Has any Republican called them down? And maybe on occasion somebody will find something that vaguely resembles a backbone. But as a general proposition, you guys have just said, okay, corruption is wonderful. We want some. And, that's just exasperating to me because it makes me realize how really, how base your motives are. And what I mean by that is, and I'll give you an example. Trump recently asked for a complete list of U.S. Spies, human intelligence. Okay. So you can assume again what the president wants, the president gets. So he's got this list of master spies. And now, what do you think he would? What do you think what do you think Trump would do with that? Oh, and I'll give you the better question. What do you think Trump thinks it's worth? What would it take for Trump to part with the entire U.S. human intelligence network? And I firmly believe that he would. And at that point, once you believe somebody would do that, sell the country out. and I mean sell the country out. And so let's say somebody comes along and says, uh, when Trump, whatever they call him, Trumpy Wumpy, how about this? How about if we give you $100 billion for that master list? And I've got a feeling Trump would say, not enough, not enough. So let's say the whoever it is, prospective buyer, says, well, okay, I agree, it's worth more. How about $500 billion, $500 billion? And at this point, you can see Trump's just those gears just grinding. This is money like he can't imagine. And so he kind of stutters and hamps a little bit. So finally, the prospective buyer says, okay, $1 trillion, final deal, take it or offer, take it or leave it. Now, what do you guys think Trump would do? He's got this little list of things or people, and this guy wants to buy that list of people. Never mind, it will lead to countless deaths and torture, imprisonment, just general mayhem. But on the other hand, Trump gets $1 trillion. Does anybody think he wouldn't do it? Yeah, I'd love for you to call in and let me know, 949-629-3820. But what do you think it would take? And or do you think he'd even bother sell it? Do you think he'd even sell it at all? I don't think that's even a question. Of course, that's why in that the then explain the boxes of souvenirs that he took the last time he was in the White House. Yeah, and then he saw fit in storing like a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, I mean, a spy from the '60s would have been in and out of there with microfilm and microfiche cameras and all that stuff. Oh, it's just he can't elevate his way of thinking to solve a problem or the only thing he does best is magic, conjure up just fake magic worlds and fake magic words. And in his fake magic world, the prices are down. Gasoline's never been cheaper. The groceries, God knows, they haven't gone up in decades, have they? And on and on and on. And I honestly don't. I know these guys are starting to get afraid, but and truth of the matter is, a lot may not happen until the Senate recess in August, and that'll surely tell the tale. And if you were John Cornyn or Tom Tillis, and you will, at this point, these guys are thinking legacy. I mean, they're not going to be around a whole lot longer, right? I mean, they're getting ready to die. And so the question becomes, well, now that I'm getting ready to die, how do I want to be remembered? Do I want to be remembered as a weasel that voted to condone corruption? Or do I want to die as a principled, proud member of the U.S. Senate? Like I said, we kind of know which way Trump would come down. And while we're talking about U.S. Senate, Lindsey Graham died, right? And whether it had something to do with his all too convenient return from Kiev, God only knows. You couldn't necessarily discount it. I don't know enough about the dissection of the aorta, cause of death given. Um, but at the end of the day, Lindsey Graham was nothing more than a craven coward, just like everybody else that enables Trump. Just like they've rolled over. This is the Congress of the United States. This is not only that, but it's the Article One. I mean, these guys came first. The way the founders designed it, most of the power was supposed to be in the House of Representatives. They want a representation by the people, and they want the people to be really responsive, which is why elections are every 2 years. Uh, Now, as we barrel into the midterms, uh, there's so much that can happen. And the lousy thing is, I mean, they've told us already. They've been start gaming the system and cheating. They've been stealing voter rolls from sheriff's offices and clerk's offices around the country. I mean, this is just bad, guys. And if you can't stand up to corruption, then you are a completely worthless public servant. And I would argue that you're not really a public servant at that point. Oh, let me put this back. You're as much as a public servant as the mafia guy offering protection to the store owner so that his window doesn't get broken every week. That's the real deal. Okay, so let's. I've almost gotten through the over the 250 Cadillac Escalades, but okay. Well, let's kind of be traditional and get back to the natural order of things. And of course, you gotta love this. Trump and Todd Blanche. Jesus, why is that guy even? I mean, Republicans are voting to okay the guy that scammed the government for 10 billion. I mean, what do the people say when they go back home? I you know, and or they could be like in Paxton in Texas and just kind of run away because he's shocked, and people are asking him about his affairs and his bankruptcies and the Supreme Court. The what is it? The petition for disbarment or something. And he knew Trump was going to. If he had a choice between the clean older guy Cornyn or the lying philanderer, he knew he was going to take the lying philanderer. I mean, how could he not? It would have been so off character if he didn't. Okay. And this is really great. Hospitals are finding more and more patients are uninsured. Now, I wonder why that could be. Could it be that in that big, bad, beautiful bill, or well, whatever he calls it, that there are some, I don't know, cuts to like healthcare subsidies, and so people couldn't afford their healthcare premiums. And guess what happens when you can't afford your healthcare premiums? That's right, you are uninsured. So my position on this is you certainly can't call it unexpected. To me, it's just confirming what kind of what we knew. Hang on a second, guys. We got to take a second and swallow hard here. Got a little sore throat going. And I'm uh, not really dealing with it well. So just hang on. Thanks, guys. I needed that. Okay. So yeah, how about that? More uninsured patients. Who would have foreseen that? I mean, really? You did. And now the obvious conclusion is that it's and that it was an intended result. In other words, it's a feature, not a bug. Okay. Uh, so that certainly seems like a good thing, right? You worthless so and so. And you can rest assured, no one that passed that legislation, none of those guys is affected by this. So, and then we can't. There's God only knows how the Ukrainians are surviving. Uh, but as if this wasn't enough, according to NATO, a Russian missile hit Poland. And I mean, at what point is it Article 5? I would think that there might not be a massive response until it was a massive disaster, like crossing a border. But I don't think much is going to become of this. Because NATO's, everybody's scared. Everybody's scared. We've got an uncertainty in the Middle East like you wouldn't believe. Not only do we have instability, we've got instability involving countries that were never unstable. I mean, the unintended results of going to war in Iran are just, or I assume they're unintended. In some ways, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump would do anything in the world to literally destroy the United States because he feels that he's been wronged in his prosecutions because the state was trying to destroy him. And I mean, it's just warped reasoning. And, you can't, the only thing you can say about a paranoid schizophrenic is he's probably never alone. Uh, so, yeah, I mean, God only knows what creeps that guy's mind dead at night when he's uh, tweeting his. Uh, and aren't those tweets just only evidence of dementia? we'll have to one of these days. We'll have to see if we can chat with his niece Mary. Blessing, do you agree with all this? Do I make sense? 949-629-3820, and let's keep going with the. Oh, geez! On top of that, okay, so that's like Eastern Europe, right? Poland, Russia, Ukraine, all that. And let's move on westward a little bit. And how about that old Greek island of Crete? Or how about that old Bordeaux region of France? And you ever notice it was the Tour de France? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's whatever it is, but it ain't the Tour de France. So anyway, so you got the fires in Crete and Bordeaux, and even on the English coast near some data center. I mean, this is just insane. The evidence for climate change is just, it's science now, and to not believe in it is, just kind of admit you're a member of the Flat Earth Society, and just take your ignorance and go tell somebody that you think will listen. But we can prove this. And listen, when it said Trump was right about everything, Al Gore was the one who was right about everything. Matter of fact, I'm still a little uncertain as to where all these big wins are that he keeps talking about. I mean, I really would like to point out this like winning in Iran that we're doing. I don't. I mean, I'm a little confused here. I don't see a whole lot of like, you know, good U.S. stuff, and you're such an idiot to keep bombing. It just, it's kind of like the Israeli deal all over again. What they're doing to Gaza, you're doing to Iran, and it just inflames and doesn't solve the problem. See, Trump's more focused on getting satisfaction for his needs than solving the problem. I mean, and maybe he may not even be bright enough to articulate the problem. But and around his group of, they're not so much cabinet members. I think they're groupies. Doesn't that seem to fit a little better? I don't think they ought to call them cabinet members at all. I think we ought to call them Trump and his groupies. Oh, I killed me. Okay. So we mentioned that. Oh, and while we're talking about stuff that could go wrong, what if these like militias start getting involved? Huh? How now you got people with guns you really can't control. Not unlike the Houthis in Yemen. It- I mean, I got to admit, things weren't perfect before, but at least they weren't exploding all over the place. Okay, and so let's see here. Oh, and how about this? The U.S. Department of Energy wants to let private companies build data centers on public lands. What could go wrong, right? Uh, these guys are just disasters in the making. I don't know what the answer is to this, but I don't think it's to rape the environment. I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be part of the deal. So I'll have to talk to my some of my smart friends and see what I can find out about this, because that's, it's like making the monument smaller. Like, was it Bear's Knees and some of those other ones in like Arizona, New Mexico? Oh, I mean, is there any real purpose to doing this other than just to, like, screw the Democrats? And if that's and we probably know that that's, you don't even really care about screwing the Democrat. Well, I mean, you probably do. You probably got your little personal revenge list, which Kamala Harris contrasted with her to-do list. When I come to the office, I will have a to-do list. When Donald Trump comes into office, he will have a revenge list. And at that point, America was shown true decency and a true monster. And and we picked the monster. How do you can't explain that? And what the monster did proves he was a monster. I mean, the first thing he does is piss off the allies with tariffs. Now nobody assumes some superior position, and he didn't get the Tom Friedman book or memo about the world being flat, where everybody competes the same all over. He just he's 80 years old, and at some point, this could be a Cowshe bet on his demise. And while I might take a little bet a little bit on that. I really want to find out what the deal is with Mitch McConnell. This guy has got to be just a complete vegetable if he's alive at all. I mean, if he's doing anything beyond sleeping in a coma and peeing on himself, let me know. But I think that's kind of the that's about what you can get out of the deal at this point. Okay, and let's kind of wrap up a little bit of this Trump stuff to the degree we ever can. Uh, with it's too bad there's not like a position known as the president and interior decorator, or the chief executive and chief interior decorator. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? You'd have Trump's the chief executive and the chief decorating officer. So his latest, he's kind of like a bored, person at home, just kind of looks for new projects to do, to put his name on, no less, not just to redo, but he wants to redo a name after himself just so we don't forget him. You know, he's going to be so relegated to, he's going to be relegated as the reincarnation of American Nazism. I mean, you don't have this National Socialism for these, or you don't have it recurring until these guys came in. I mean, this was America was no more founded to be a white Christian country than it was founded for freedom of religion. And please, God, don't ever let, and to a lesser degree, freedom of the press, all this stuff. Uh, but let's see, freedom. Can you imagine just having to belong to the Church of England, not having a choice? You were an Anglican country, so you went to the Anglican Church, who was one the Henry VIII, or who was it? Was the Archbishop of Canterbury, Charles, and all that. Uh, anyway, what you're gonna have to do with the can't believe we kind of got off on Chaucer here. Uh, but anyway, let's get back to the to what I was talking about, the interior decorating. Uh, how about this? How about if Trump redoes Dulles Airport and oh, you know what? Well, geez, Don, just out of curiosity, I got a little question for you. Sure, Congress. What's your question? My question is, how much do it cost? And Trump goes, well, I don't know, but we're looking at $22.5 billion for starters. And like, you idiot. Why are you doing this? You're running us into bankruptcy. And of course he's running us into bankruptcy because that's his specialty. I can pull out my 4-page sheet of Trump wrongdoing and the bankruptcies, and they all follow the same pattern. He gets whatever asset, leverages the living daylights out of it from some bank that's stupid enough to lend to him. And then, lo and behold, would you believe? Nah, you wouldn't believe this, but we'll go ahead and tell you anyway. Would you believe that after buying this asset, a positive asset or a positive cash flow asset, would he go ahead and leverage that asset, right? And leverage the living daylights out of it. Maybe he leveraged it 2 or 3 times over. God only knows what kind of business deals that guy had. So yeah, and then what's he do? The old bankruptcy routine. And then he keeps getting away with it, so he keeps doing it. And his net worth keeps growing and growing. And well, I think we can rest assured he's never accurately stated his net worth. It's always tend to be some inflationary number. And now, don't forget, this is the $2 billion gain that he made this past year. That's just what we know about. And I don't think that takes into account the kids. And along those lines, I think I ought to take a moment just to not completely dump on Trump. I mean, after all, wasn't he the guy that led some sort of a protest, holding the Bible upside down in that church? Just was it Lincoln Square Park or Lafayette Square Park, just opposite the White House? Probably Lafayette Square Park. And yeah, does anybody? Oh, wasn't that a great one? He holds the Bible upside down. And then of course someone had to tell him. He wouldn't know. How would he know? But from that little moment, I'm not sure was that a official Trump Bible event? Yeah, did he sanction that for the Trump Bible Inc. Agree to have this sort of thing? But he sold like what $300,000 worth of those things, and now I'm sure that it was that it was the copy of the Constitution and Trump's picture that sold those things. Oh, but you know what? Did the pictures? What do the pictures really look like? I mean, they have like Trump as Jesus coming down, spreading his angelic wings, healing the sick, feeding the poor, clothing the naked, sheltering the homeless. I could go on and on. Healing, yeah. Is he doing that? Nah. Now, on the other hand, is he making a little moolah? 2 billion smackers a year, and like I said, that's not counting the billions that Kushner gets from Saudi Arabia. And Ivanka never met a piece of property she couldn't work. Uh, I mean, they're just when Trump was in court, one of those judges kept saying Trump Jr. and was a witness that had to have been that 34 count fraud trial. And does anybody remember that? The stunning legal victory that Todd Blanche won. Oh no, he didn't. He lost that. Geez, now how much did he lose it by? Did he lose it by a little? And weren't there like 34 counts of fraud? He couldn't possibly have been convicted on all 34 counts of fraud, could he? I mean, look at the evidence and look at the attorney he had, Todd Blanche, and look at this evidence. And of course, he's like guilty on all 34 counts and has to sit there while the clerk of court reads out, guilty, 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 guilty. And, Todd Blanche is just trying to shrink in his chair. I mean, he just lost, like I say, 34 zip. And didn't it cost him one at the deal where he got the, where E.G. Carroll got the extra, you know, $83 million for the punitive damages? And, you got to hand it to those people. How much would it take for Trump to hurt or to notice that and to encourage him to not do this again? How much would it take? And apparently they found like $83.5 million would do it. And of course, that was before Trump's $2 billion windfall. And I swear, it's just exhausting. There's no other way to describe this thing. Uh, and as you guys may or may not know, a guy named Kevin Warsh, Warsh, was just appointed chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. The nation's bank, and the Fed has two functions: low inflation and full employment. And full employment is, I think, generally like 95%, or 5% difference, 5% floor rather. So anyway, and how do they manage this? They've got exactly one tool, and it's interest rates. So and they rise and fall depending on the votes taken at Fed meetings. And you can have as long as it's a majority, they'll call what they want. And the three possibilities are a rate increase, a rate decrease, or do nothing. And bond markets are they're different than stocks. People and countries invest in bonds because they're utter stability, the certainty in knowing that a country will pay its debts, particularly our country will pay its debts. And so we don't, you don't want any much noise in the bond market. And if there's a panic in the bond market, by the time you find out about it, the damage is incalculable. So anyway, what the Fed had traditionally done, as far back as I can remember, was that when they would recap their meetings rather, the Fed chairman would always give some guidance as to what he thought would happen, what I thought would happen at the next meeting, and that while this is how it is now, you can see that if this happens, we may have to respond. And so anyway, So the new guy gets in and he says, "You know what? I don't think we're going to give you give the bond market any guidance. The numbers are what the numbers are, and here they are." And so, of course, say bond markets are stable. I say you really don't want to upset the bond market. And so now what happens? Another element of instability. Add that into the Strait of Hormuz, add that into Venezuela, add that into Canada. I mean, just uh, where are we making out in this deal? That's what I want to know. Where are we making out? You can and what I would really like to see is like maybe you know how about an hour? 30 minutes might be a little quick. That's what we need. We need to have President Trump take call-ins or calls in and answer the question live on the radio. Wouldn't that be cool? We would just roast him, wouldn't we? Uh, that might. I'm rarely in favor of helping somebody have a stroke, but I wouldn't mind something to, put Trump on the DL for a little bit. And I'm sure if they gave him a mental exam, a real mental exam, and not the cognitive cognition test, I mean, I'll give the guy credit. I'm pretty sure that he's still okay enough to tell, like, you know, a banana from a lion. Just going on a limb, but now we may have maxed out at that point, but there's no doubt that, or at least very little doubt that he could pass that thing. But a serious mental exam, and we just might be there. Okay, so the Fed guidance, so on and so forth. Oh, and of course, like everybody else in the Trump administration, we are throwing out the old playbook. And you're like, well, why? And the answer is because we can. And at that point, you realize this is no more about proving a theory right or proving it or disproving it completely. It's about asserting control over the government mechanisms in any given situation. And like I say, guys, I hate to keep circling back to this, but time's wasted. It's what 93 days till the election or so, and this is just going to be huge. I really think this is the most important election this country has faced. And yeah, and don't forget things are different now. Communication is so instant. In other words, the world is flat, like Friedman says. That could we have disruptions in the Japanese bond market? Could we have disruptions? Or how about this situation? And there have been some accusations that Iran has hacked some governmental water management sites in I think Michigan or something. Uh, but what if Iran gets a little more ambitious, or what if they just have taken just one bomb too many? What if they take out our power grid and don't think it's not in the list of possibilities? Because what did Trump do? Threaten to bomb their power generation plants, which is another war crime. And I swear he really is an incorrigible child that just cannot, that just refuses to play by the rules. And inevitably, you just have to send a kid like that home and let him go, like pee on himself in the corner. And listen, I can only hope that after November 2nd, that there's such a resounding Democrat. I don't want a blue wave. I want a blue tsunami. But anyway, I'd like to see such a blue tsunami that any sort of delay tactic is just shut down really quickly as being nothing less than a coup. And that what these guys want to do? They want to change the results of an election by force. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's kind of like a coup. I want that the reason they were like trying to get into the Capitol on January 6th was to stop the counting and the certification from the clerk of the House of Representatives. And listen, Trump's going to fire the guy. You know it's coming. And what the response is, who do I ask? I would have to, ask Claude and hope that he gave me a decent answer. But yeah, I mean, uh, with Trump, it's just like say 50-50 probability each day whether you'll have a job. And that might be really great to instill fear in your subordinates, but it does it zero for the public entities and the public that you're alleging you're serving. And yeah, Trump's so funny. Yeah, the more he screams about how much he serves others, he's just taking in that much more money for him. And it was this thing. It was the Wayans brothers. I forgot which Wayans it was, but I think it was Keenan Ivory and maybe not Marlon. Damon Williams. And these guys would, instead of the Home Shopping Network, they had the Homeboy Shopping Network, which is, like a homeboy version of the Home Shopping Network. And they would sell, like, stolen TVs or whatever it is. And the big catchphrase was, and what do we sell it for? And the Wayans brothers would go, more money, more money, more money. And oh, my mother just thought that was the funniest thing. So anyway, that's like Trump. More money, more money, more money. And I said, the only deal now is, I mean, look what he's done. We know it's important. Oh, and another thing, so I want to bring this up. You remember a long time ago when I turned one and Trump flies to, some meeting, I think it's in Norway, and Putin's there. And somebody asked a question about Russian interference or that the United States intelligence service has evidence. And Trump says something like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me ask my buddy Vladimir." Oh, he says nothing's wrong. Nothing wrong.
Uh,
Oh, gosh, did you think it was going to get better? I mean, how many clues did you guys realistically overlook? The guy is just, I mean, you see this, but, maybe all you guys benefited from the big tax cut. I know a guy who retired military, started a medical device company, publicly traded. Lear or Gulfstream, whatever big jet they have. And we were talking one morning, and he says, I vote for whoever puts money in my pocket. And I'm thinking to myself, you are a Green Beret. How could you do this? And of course, you can't say a word because the guy's clearly given more than I ever have. Uh, but you're just amazed at how shallow some people can be with the right to vote. And don't forget, not everybody's got a right to vote. I mean, can you imagine? You know what it's like when people ain't got a right to vote, right? That's why we have kingdoms and monarchies, and just or maybe just a military leadership because you're the leader because you have more guns than I do. Uh, so we need to pay a little more attention to the way we pick our leaders. And I kind of get the I understand how coalition governments work in Europe, and as much as I'd like to see them here, I don't think there's any. I think we've got about as close to a decent democracy as you can have. We were the gold standard. And again, when did he do this? Trump was on TV when he says, "When it's such a resounding victory is unceremoniously stripped," and you're like, "You worthless POS, you got beat fair and square." But not only did he say this, but he does it on national TV. So he just like dares people to not air it. So everybody sees Trump lying again. But this time, this is like, see, this the difference is this is why they call it the big lie, as because the January 6th lie gave rise to so much that came after it. And I don't know about you guys, but I watched congressional hearings, special committee, and I think that was probably Nancy Pelosi's swan song. And she's always on. Been relatively good, steady, and consistent over the years. Nobody's perfect. You can yell at her about her husband or her, political thoughts, but the fact of the matter is, she was a very effective legislator for a very long time. Still very influential, And like I said, and trust me, at this point, nobody knows politics like Nancy Pelosi. I would love to have a a print or picture somehow of that final moment where she just rips the Trump State of the Union speech in half and throws it in the air.
Uh,
Uh, now you see that woman has the courage of her convictions. She will speak up, and and I say God bless her. And the next time I see Trump claims this or Trump, guys, just call him a lie, a pathological lying SOB. Or you could do it like this. Today in the news, President Trump, the lying SOB that he is, went on to say, see, you can just blend that right in. Or President Trump, that worthless excuse for a human being, just announced a new just announced that somebody just gave him another made up prize. Wouldn't that be like the subtitle of his announcements? Okay, so we get anyway. Oh, so let's get back to the Fed. All that I kind of left the dollars and cents stuff behind for a little bit, and but my point is that you know how big our treasury is, and it's like we've got a $31 trillion economy here, and you don't want anybody screwing it up. That's those numbers are huge. So anyway, but let's get back to the little market stuff. And Citadel is one of those big hedge fund guys that the black box that somehow accumulated $71 billion in assets. Um, so they had bought another fail somebody who lost a bunch of money. I think it was called Situational Awareness Company, and I think they had like $16 billion in public holdings after some AI problems. So Citadel, make a long story short, Citadel won on the AI bet, and situational awareness lost to the tune of like, according to this, $16 billion. And like I said, as if the financial tragedies aren't enough. How about the real cost of living these days? And the real cost of living these days is tuning on your TV and watching the BBC live from Quetta, Africa, where 60,000 Moroccans have tried to cross over to escape and try to find some sort of a decent life. And allegedly 48,000 of them have gone back. But can you imagine 60,000, unruly people? It's not like 60,000 people lined up for a football game and everybody's in a nice, neat line, right? These are 60,000 people just swimming for their lives. And of course, people are going to die. And, you know, if you don't know how to swim, you probably shouldn't be in the water in the first place. Or, have a life jacket, do something. Uh, but these people had absolutely zero to live for in Morocco. So there was a huge. I wanted to use the word jailbreak, but that's an unfairly tinged word, so I won't do that. But yeah, 60,000 people. I mean, can you imagine if an NFL stadium just kind of emptied? People would be run over and just killed in the stampede. At least that's my belief. I refuse to believe that if something went bad inside of a stadium, I don't know if we'd be so good about standing in line and waiting our turn. Um, and just to show you, and I said, please, somebody come on and explain to me how we're winning in this economy. 949 the way nobody's defending Trump, you would have to assume it is not defensible. And he's not defensible, and he's not. I mean, how do you defend? Uh, geez, it's almost hard to look back on. Well, all the construction project, the demolition of the East Wing, the reflecting pool that his motorcade damaged when he drove over it. What else? The reflecting pool that. Uh, I mean, it's just a really comedy of errors. And the bad part about it is when you get incompetence is domestically is one thing, But incompetence in some place like the Defense Department or War Department, you ass. Uh, you can't expect a Fox TV host to plan a war, and you can't. Unfortunately, you can't count on Trump to take the advice of a seasoned general. And you know why Trump doesn't take the advice of a seasoned general? Well, I will tell you why Trump won't take the advice or isn't capable of taking the advice of a senior military official. And the reason is when you are convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt, when you are convinced that you are the smartest person in the room and that you know everything there is to know on a subject, then you might not be terribly open to taking advice. You might just want to say stuff and leave because you're right. Just you're just right. And what we're seeing now is he ain't right. The Trump's decisions have sucked. And just as a little business note on the way out, how about the U.S. economy grew at a rate of 1.5%? I mean, is that like anemic? Yeah, we really need that 3 to 4% growth just to to keep moving forward. And like I say, after a while, uh, you don't. It becomes painfully obvious that the underlying operating procedure in the Trump White House is all for me and none for you. All for me and none for you. And that's why I can remodel the East Wing, the Kennedy Center, the Reflecting Pool, Dallas National. That's why I can do all that. And you're like, huh, I didn't know that. How can we stop you? And ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to one thing and again, and that is vote, vote, vote. Donate to your local candidates. Join your local Democratic club. I hate, and the funny thing about that is join more than one if you can, if you're in a big enough area, because they all do different, not do different things, but they all have different perspectives. And I'll give an example. I'm a member of the Costa Mesa Democratic Club, the Newport Beach Women's Democratic Club, and the Costa Mesa Democrats Club. And you can tell, like the Costa Mesa Democrats Club, while there's clearly always going to be an above average share of seniors in there, there seem to be a lot of like younger 20s and early 30s business people. And so it's kind of like a young, vibrant business crowd. Laguna Beach is completely different. Everybody's like older, and I'll tell you the difference. At the Costa Mesa Democrat Club, whoever's running for city council will splurge and have like 5 or 10 Domino's pizzas, right? At the Laguna Beach Democrat Club, they're some of the best wine cheese I've ever had in my life there. It's always like really nice. With Newport Beach being kind of in the middle, they've got wine, all that stuff. It's not quite as nice as Laguna Beach, but they do the best. Everybody does a great job. So that's why I say if you can join more than one, do it. Uh, and like I say time's growing short. We're right at 3 months out, and we have no idea what's going to happen in the meantime. I said, you can rest assured that Trump's going to do something. And what if it's election night? And if he just says, "Oh, I see fraud, election over," and you're like, "What?" Yep, election over. Emergency powers. And you would have to think that it's more likely than not the Supreme Court would go along with them. Uh, at that point, it really is just a coup. He gained control of the government. And whether he fought, whether shots are fired and how many are a different story. But again, you couldn't be surprised if there was like 1,600 of Trump's best friends from January 6th having a big old sleepover at the White House. And of course, your AR-15s are more than welcome because we do need to protect Trump. And you like protect him. Yeah, he ought to be. He's the first one that ought to be in front of the firing squad for what he's done to the government. Uh, but guys, at the end of the day, we're in the United States, and we are clearly hated around the world. And but it doesn't have to be that way. Everybody can try to do a little something to not necessarily repair the world, but just put some sort of positive act out there, thinking that positive and goodness beget positive and goodness. Of course, there's a 50-50 probability each time. I'd hate to think there's anything sort of a direct correlation. But yeah, why don't we try to maybe just recognize the truth a little bit? And what I would really like to ask is that all the people that think January 6th was nice and peaceful, would you please call in? And I tell you what, if you want, I'm happy to. I'll take you anywhere, and we can watch the videos together. And I'm sure they're on YouTube still available. And you can tell me where I'm wrong. I mean, I if you can poke a hole in my argument, poke a hole, poke a big one in it. I only want to know the truth of the deal, and the witnesses were overwhelmingly Republican witnesses. Uh, I mean, you guys just can't keep living in Trump's delusional world. And if you do live in Trump's delusional world, you do so at your own peril. And I think that's going to be the overwhelming theme for the midterms in 2026. I think there's going to be a huge out with the old, in with the new. And of course, there'll be some people that are, that may have extreme views getting in, and, maybe even a Democrat socialist or two. But, we've got to grow and evolve from this. Like I say, let's hope we get that far with the lack of funding and why Ken Martin's on Instagram raising money on telephone. God only knows. I mean, didn't anybody tell him there's an election 90 days out? And he's mortgaging the DNC headquarters to get a little operating cash. Guys, I hate to tell you, we deserve better than that. But then again, we deserve better than Trump, and we got stuck there too. So we'll just have to ride this one out and see what happens. And ladies and gentlemen, as it usually happens, my voice is starting to go, and we've been in about an hour or so. And guys, it's not like I have a co-host to make you laugh while I go like pee or something. I have to do all this on my own. And the truth of the matter is, I could not be any happier doing anything else. Sharing a few political opinions, listening to a few political opinions, and that's what I want you to remember about us. We are the Democracy Radio Network. You talk and we listen. And once again, this is your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman. And I just, as usual, I just kind of want to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. And I got a few emails this week, so thanks, guys. And if we can be of any help to any Democrat candidate, please let us know. DemocracyRadioNetwork.com, and the email address is United. That's United at DemocracyRadioNetwork.com, and that's because we are united at DemocracyRadioNetwork.com. So, guys, take care, stay well, have a super weekend, and you know what we always say about this time, don't you? Yeah, you do. Roger Wilco